Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Patience. So today we are going to be making this beautiful overlap smoked waist ruffle hem dress with an elastic ruffle sleeve. So before we get started, kindly click the subscribe button. If you have done that, let's get into it. So I'll be using this fabric for this tutorial, and this is about 3 yards, and I'll also be drafting on this pattern paper. So I've gone ahead to mark this line, that is my shoulder line. Right on this line I'll mark half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. So I'll be adding ½ inch for ease, that is 8.5 inches, and I'll also be adding ½ inch for sewing allowance, that is 9 inches. So for the width of the neck, I will mark 4 inches. And on this shoulder measurement, I'll come down by 1 inch and I'll make a slant line from this point to this point. So after doing that, I'll mark half of my armhole measurement, which is 8 inches, and I'll mark my shoulder to bust point, which is 10.5 inches. And I'll also mark my shoulder to under bust point, which is 14 inches, but I'll be adding ½ inch for ease, that is 14.5 inches, and I'll also be adding ½ inch for joining allowance, that is 15 inches. So this is the chest line, the bust line, and the under bust line. So I'll bring down this 9 inches on the chest line and I'll connect the points, and I'll mark the midpoint of this line, that is 4 inches. Now for the back armhole, I'll go in by ½ inch, and for the front armhole I'll go in by 3/4 inch, and I'll make a slant line this way, and I'll curve the front and the back armhole. So I'll be marking 1.5 inch for the depth of the neck, that is for the back piece, and I'll make a curve this way. So for the circumference measurements, quarter of my bust circumference is 10.5 inches. So I'll be adding allowances to my measurements because this dress is not going to have a zip. So I'll be adding 1 inch allowance, that is 11.5 inches. And I also add 1 inch for side seam allowance. So on the under bust, which is also the full length of the upper part of this dress, I'll mark my under bust circumference, which is 9 inches, and I'll be adding 1 inch for ease, that is 10 inches, and I'll also add 1 inch for side seam allowance, that is 11 inches. So I'll add ½ inch on the shoulder line for sewing allowance. Now I'll mark 7 inches for the depth of the front neck, and I'll make a slant line this way. So this is a dartless basic bodice. Now I am going to make like a smoked design from the underbust to the waist of this dress, and that is going to give the dress its shape. Now I am going to cut this out. So I'll cut out the back armhole, and I'll be using this as a pattern to cut out the back piece. So I'll place it on another pattern paper and I'll pin it down and cut out the back piece. So this is the back piece, and I'm going to keep it aside. Now for the front piece, I am going to be making the overlap on the neckline. So from the midpoint, I am going to mark 5 inches and I'll extend the depth of the neck to the 5 inches. So that is it for the front piece. I'll be cutting out 2 of this for the front piece for the overlap. So this is the back piece and the front piece. So I'll be cutting out the back piece this way, and I'll be cutting out 2 of the front piece. So to cut out the front piece, I will place my fabric this way and I'll ensure the wrong sides are facing each other. And then I'll place my pattern this way and trace it out. And I'll also cut out the front armhole. So I've done that. I've cut it out on my fabric, as you can see. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'll place good sides this way, and I'll sew on the 1/2 inch for the shoulder allowance. So I've done that. I've joined the 1/2 inch for the shoulder allowance, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'll use a bias tape to finish up the neckline, starting from this point to this point. So I've done that. As you can see, it came out really neat. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, using the back piece as a guide, I'll align the front piece and I'll pin it down. And then I'll sew by 1/2 inch to keep the overlap in place. And then I'll join the front and the back piece with the 1 inch for side seam allowance. So I've done that. I've joined the side seam, as you can see, and I've also joined the overlap. Now the total length of this gown is going to be 45 inches. Now for the middle part of this dress, I'm going to be using 24 inches, and for the ruffles on the hem, I'll be using 7 inches. So I've gone ahead to cut it out, and this is 25 inches. So I'll be using 1/2 inch to join to the upper part of the dress, and I'll be using 1/2 inch to join to the lower part of the dress. So I'll be left with 24 inches. So the width is going to be my underbust circumference times 1.5. So right now, on the right side of the fabric, I'll be marking some guidelines for the smock design I want to make from the underbust to the lower waist. So I've gone ahead to mark this 1/2 inch that I'll use to join to the upper part of the dress, and from the 1/2 inch I marked about 5 inches. So I'll be using this 5 inches space for the smock design, and now I am going to mark my guidelines. I'll mark 1 centimeter space from each other. So after doing that, I am going to extend the lines all through. So I've done that, and now I am going to start sewing straight stitches on the guidelines. So using a bobbin and an elastic thread, I am going to wind my bobbin using my hands this way. Now I will ensure I am not pulling the elastic thread. So starting from 1/2 inch, I am going to start sewing on the guidelines. So I've done that, and this is how beautiful it came out. So after doing that, I'll wrap it around my underbust circumference and expand and mark the exact measurement. So I'll place the right sides together this way, and I'll join the remaining side seam. So guys, I've done that. I've joined the side seam, as you can see, and this is how it came out. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to join the upper part of the dress. So I'm going to place good sides this way. So I am going to align the side seam this way. So remember, the underbust on the upper part of the dress will be wider than the smocked waist. But I'm going to, when I'm sewing, I'm going to expand and align it with the smocked waist to give it its shape. So I'll pin it down and I'll sew by 1/2 inch, and this is how it is going to come out. So I've done that, as you can see, and it has given the dress its shape. So now for the ruffle on the hem of the dress, I've gone ahead to cut this out, and this is 8.5 inches. So I'll be using 1/2 inch to join to the dress, and I'll use 1 inch to hem the dress. So the length is 7 inches and the width is about 100 inches. So now I am going to use the longest stitch on my sewing machine to sew 1/2 inch all through this 100 inches, and I will gather it. So I've done that, and I stitched on the gathers to keep it in place, and I have also joined the side seam, as you can see, and I hemmed the dress. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach this to the dress. So I'll place good sides this way and align it, and I'll sew by 1/2 inch. So I've done that. I've joined the ruffle, and this is how it came out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut out the sleeve. Now I have a video on how to draft a basic sleeve, so I'll put the link on the description box. So I extended all the measurements, and it depends on how full you want the sleeve. So I also added on the wrists, because I'll be attaching an elastic band that will give the wrist its shape. So on the hem of the sleeve, I am going to mark 4 inches. So I'll use 1 inch to hem the sleeve. So I've done that. Now on this line, I am going to attach my elastic band. So I'll wrap it on my wrist this way to know the exact measurement. So I am going to sew the elastic band starting from the side seam this way. So when I'm sewing the elastic band, I'll stretch it and sew so it can come out this way. So I've done that, and this is how it came out. And I did the same thing on the other sleeve. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'll place good sides this way, and I'll sew on the side seam. So I've done that, and this is how it came out. So the next thing I'm going to do is to attach the sleeve on the dress. So I am going to align the front and the back armhole, and of course there will be excess on the sleeve. So what I'm going to do is I am going to pleat the excess, as you can see, then I'll sew by 1/2 inch. So I've done that. As you can see, I've attached the sleeve, and this is how beautiful it came out. So I am going to put this on the mannequin for you to see how it came out. Now we have come to the end of this tutorials, guys. If this was helpful, kindly give this video a thumbs up and also click on the subscribe button, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell to be updated when I upload a new video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.